Welcome to C News Now.
A long road with no end, Liu Yuning and the ability to be happy sparkles. Some paths are never bright at the starting line. Some dreams must walk through darkness for a very long time before they see light. And some people, only when we look back at the road they have walked, do we finally understand why they truly deserve happiness. Liu Yuning is one of those people. I still remember that moment clearly, the first time he received a real male lead role. His eyes lit up. There was a trace of pride, but even more hesitation, the kind that belongs to someone who has long stood at the edge of the spotlight. He asked softly, almost carefully. "I'm playing the male lead now, will everyone support me?" That simple question carried the weight of years of waiting. At that moment, Liu Yuning was genuinely happy, the happiness of someone who was finally trusted. But that happiness was soon swallowed by a surging tide of darkness. Broken bones from action scenes endured in silence. The cold sentence, "This time I won't fight back." And endless malicious rumors, absurd, illogical, spreading like a virus, unconcerned with truth as long as they were loud enough. Sometimes, silence isn't because it doesn't hurt, but because resistance feels meaningless. Before he could even steady himself, more waves came crashing down. Unequal treatment within production teams. Spring Festival gala rehearsals where leave was denied, training through the night, then rushing back immediately. Full makeup applied, only to sit and wait an entire day without a single scene. Filming and promotion sacrificed, pushed to the margins, yet when the drama aired, it was still him who had to step forward and carry the publicity alone. There were dramas shelved for 2 full years, nearly never reaching audiences. Those who caused the chaos stayed hidden, quietly benefiting. When success came, they rushed to claim credit. When criticism followed, he was left to shoulder everything alone. A distorted label placed on him, responsibilities piled onto him, again and again. And then, finally, when it seemed like light was breaking through the trees, the cost was still brutal. Hengdian faced one of its hottest summers in decades. Temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius, outdoor fight scenes for the male lead. Tight rubber armor, scorching sun with no shade. A glued wig worn for days, alcohol allergies causing sores on his neck. And on top of it all, emotionally heavy scenes that demanded not just physical endurance, but the complete exhaustion of the soul. 5 years. 5 consecutive years. From the pure joy of expectation and ambition, to the mindset of as long as everyone is happy, I don't matter. From enduring quietly, to being choked with emotion when fans said, "The person who brings us happiness must be even happier himself." Until the end of the year, when he said a sentence that made many people stop and reflect. The biggest harvest of this year was learning how to be happy, gaining the ability to be happy. The happiness Liu Yuning has reclaimed today did not come from luck. It grew from relentless perseverance. From the dedication he poured in. From works forged through sweat, and even blood. From the moment his efforts were truly recognized by audiences and acknowledged by professionals, when he finally knew he had not chosen the wrong path. Breaking 10,000 plus popularity across 3 platforms. Every project as the male lead. Single-handedly carrying the audience's emotional resonance. These are not marketing narratives, they are achievements earned with real strength. Screaming night male god, VIP plus star, industry leaders personally attending his concert to present flowers, top-tier recognition and treatment. This is industry credibility, accumulated step by step through capability and character. Last night, I heard a sentence that deeply resonated with me. A person's will determines the upper limit of their success. Liu Yuning is living proof of this. When he was unknown, when his dreams had not even a sliver of light, he never abandoned music. When darkness flooded the sky and he stood isolated with nowhere to rely on, he used sincerity and acting to tear open a crack of light with his own hands. When both body and mind were pushed to the extreme, he still relied on professionalism to shape his characters to near perfection. That is a will far beyond the ordinary. A belief that does not easily break. A fierce vitality that nourishes happiness from within. And because of this, Liu Yuning's happiness today is not fragile, it has roots, weight, and depth. The road ahead is still long. But with that will, that vision, and that ability, our Liu Yuning will walk far, steadily, and shine in a way that has no ending. Sparkles. Some roads are not meant to be easy. Some lives are not blessed with shortcuts. And some people are born not to be protected by fate, but to fight their way through it. Liu Yuning belongs to that last kind. When people talk about success, they often start from the moment the applause begins. But Liu Yuning's story can only be understood if you start much earlier, from the moments when there was no applause at all. I still remember that scene vividly. The first time he was given a true male lead role. His eyes lit up, not with arrogance, not with confidence taken for granted, but with something far more fragile and precious, hope mixed with disbelief. There was pride, yes, but it was cautious, restrained, as if he didn't dare to hold it too tightly. And then he asked, softly, almost like a child seeking reassurance. I get to play the male lead now, will everyone support me? That question broke many hearts. Because people who have always been loved don't ask questions like that. Only those who have waited too long, been denied too often, and learned to expect disappointment do. At that moment, Liu Yuning was truly happy, not because he had become a male lead, but because for the first time, the world seemed willing to believe in him. But fate did not allow that happiness to last. What followed was not growth, but a flood. A dark, violent tide that came without warning. Action scenes that shattered bones, endured without complaint. A quiet sentence that said everything, this time I won't fight back. And then came the rumors, countless, absurd, malicious, spreading faster than truth ever could. People like to say, why didn't he defend himself? But those who have truly been trapped know. Sometimes, silence is not weakness, it is survival. Before he could recover, more waves crashed down. Unequal treatment in production teams became routine. Spring Festival gala rehearsals where he wasn't allowed to rest, rehearsing through the night, then rushing straight back to set. Full makeup done, costumes on, only to sit and wait for an entire day with no scene to shoot. Projects where his role in filming and promotion was sacrificed, minimized, pushed aside, until the drama aired, and suddenly, it was him who had to step forward and carry the responsibility alone. There were works shelved for 2 full years, stories that nearly never met their audience. Behind the scenes, those who caused the damage stayed silent, untouched. When results came, they rushed to claim credit. When blame followed, it was Liu Yuning who stood alone. Labels were forced onto him. Burden after burden was placed on his shoulders. And yet, he kept walking. Then, when it finally seemed that light had appeared at the end of the tunnel, the cost became physical. Hengdian endured one of its hottest summers in decades. Over 40 degrees Celsius. Outdoor fight scenes. Tight rubber armor trapping heat against his skin. No shade. No mercy from the sun. A glued wig worn day after day, alcohol allergies eating away at his neck until it broke into sores. And still, emotionally heavy scenes that demanded complete vulnerability. It wasn't just acting anymore. It was endurance. 5 years. 5 unbroken years of this cycle. From the pure joy of dreaming, to the quiet thought of as long as everyone is happy, I don't matter. Until one day, he heard fans say, the person who brings us happiness must be even happier himself. And for the first time, he couldn't speak. Because someone had finally seen him, not just what he provided. At the end of that year, Liu Yuning said something that will stay with many people for a long time. The greatest harvest of this year was learning how to be happy, gaining the ability to be happy. Think about that sentence. Happiness did not come naturally to him. He had to learn it. He had to earn the right to feel it. The happiness he has today is not fragile. It is built on perseverance. On countless nights of doubt. On sweat, pain, and moments when giving up would have been easier. 3 platforms breaking 10,000 plus popularity. Every project as a male lead. Carrying the emotional weight of entire stories on his shoulders. These are not marketing achievements, they are proof. Screaming Night Male God. VIP Plus star. Industry leaders personally attending his concert to present flowers. Top-tier recognition that cannot be faked. These are not gifts. They are respect earned. Last night, I heard a sentence that felt like it was written for him. A person's will determines the upper limit of their success. Liu Yuning proves this every day. When he was unknown and his dreams had no light, he never abandoned music. When darkness swallowed him and he had nowhere to rely on, he used sincerity and acting to carve open a crack of light with his own hands. When both body and mind were pushed to their limits, he chose professionalism again and again, until his characters became unforgettable. This is not talent alone. This is willpower far beyond the ordinary. This is belief that refuses to break. This is a life force strong enough to grow happiness from pain. And that is why his happiness today feels so moving. Because it is not loud. Not flashy. Not borrowed. It is rooted. It is earned. It is real. The road ahead is still long. But with this will, this vision, and this hard-won ability to be happy, Liu Yuning will continue walking forward, steadily and brilliantly, toward a future with no ending in sight. Sparkles.